Welcome back, folks, to our coverage of the College Disc Golf National Championships. I'm Pavvo Stubstad with Central Coast Disc Golf, joined once again by John Baker, Director of College Disc Golf and TD of this event. We're still looking at singles play here. This is the final 13 holes at the Gorge. Why don't you tell me a little bit about this course, John, since we haven't seen it yet?
It's the longest course here at North Cove. We put it in last year for the championship. It actually got done a couple weeks before the event. Andrew Duvall really put in a lot of work with Michael Shugart, and they got it done. It's a great course. It really challenges the team play. And then, of course, here we have the top singles players competing on it for their final 13 holes.
Yeah, I gotta say, John, I love this course. It gives me a lot of USDGC vibes with very tight OB lines, hazards, drop zones on a bunch of holes. The challenge here definitely comes from trying to keep the disc in bounds.
Yeah, you see a lot of USDGC-esque design here, but with elevation changes as well. And I mean, the beautiful mountains here in the Blue Ridge area is gorgeous too.
Good point. I love elevation change. It's one of my favorite elements of disc golf, and this course definitely does have a lot more of it than USDGC. This first hole, hole 1, 381 feet, the path you see there on either side of the basket, you have to land in that area with the basket to be safe. And if you land anywhere outside of that area, it plays as a hazard, so players will still play their lie, but with a penalty stroke.
Yeah, we saw some pretty interesting putts last year on this green. We saw some deflections from App State. That was pretty cool to see. It almost plays like a bunker short right, because if you leave yourself in that position, you're going to have a tough putt around that little boulder there.
Up first, Caleb Fennell, our leader, or one of our 3 leaders.
As you can tell, the course is very damp and the conditions were incredibly tough today.
Noah Free!
Noah Free, a defending champion from Missouri from last season.
Noah going for that big forehand hyzer around everything.
Yeah, I honestly like that shot, Pavvo, because the green gets significantly wider. Oh,
man,
almost got it safe.
That was so close, but he's going to find himself in the hazard as well. This is an incredibly challenging green to stick.
Yeah, it is. It's fast, and it can be challenging to get the disc down with this significant elevation change you're seeing here.
Next up, Shane McCullen. I like that line. The disc was just a little bit too understable, but I like that straight at it line. I think that's what I would do on this hole.
Yeah, Pavvo, I like that one as well.
Caldwell.
We got another Calvin in disc golf, folks. Calvin Caldwell.
Looks like he's going with the Calvin-esque line, too. Big spike.
Nice and high, fading back beautifully. Wow, and he sticks it right by the basket. Beautiful drive from Calvin.
That was a great shot.
Here's Caleb throwing his 3rd shot from the hazard area. He's trying to put it close. And he does just that. Shane doing the same.
Shannon's on the Clemson team, and they came in with the lead coming into this day.
Noah with a chance to par still. Oh, look at how it stopped there. What are the odds of that happening?
Yeah, that's an interesting lie.
And a beautiful birdie from Calvin to start.
That's a really great shot, especially when you consider the other 3 players on the card were in the hazard. That's making some serious moves with the field.
Yep, 2-stroke swing with all of his competitors on the card. I would imagine this hole averaged well over par, so that's probably a stroke and a half at least on the field on average.
Yeah, in these conditions, too, I would be willing to bet that most of the holes were playing that way today, Pavvo.
It's a creative tap-in. And 3 bogeys and a birdie, and that actually puts Calvin 1 stroke ahead of everyone because they all started 1 stroke ahead of him. And by everyone, I mean the players on this card. Of course, there are other competitors close behind them as well.
Yeah, there were quite a few competitors tied at 9 down coming into this round, I believe.
Hole 2, 390-foot, par 3. As you saw, there's a Mando off the tee there, forcing players to start their shot over the OB creek on the left. That OB, the rock line on the right, is also OB, and the basket, as we've seen on this property, is tucked close to the creek.
Yeah, new for this year, Pavvo, is that mandatory right there on that tree close to the tee pad.
Yeah, in the past, players had an option to play more conservatively and just throw a hyzer out there to the right and get it in bounds, but now they're forced to kind of play a riskier shot like that. And as you see, maybe he overturned it, worried too much about the creek, and went OB on the other side of the fairway. Caleb, it looks like, making a similar mistake. Turned that over way too much, and he's in the OB as well. Oh, that just must have slipped out of Noah's hand.
Had to. We saw a bit of a, if he was trying to make a correction compared to the other players, that might have been a bit of an overcompensation there from Noah.
And there's no drop zone on this hole, so Noah is going to have to re-tee for 3 since his disc never crossed inbounds. And Shane making the same mistake as the other 2 players, going OB right, but at least they get to advance up the fairway a bit. And here is Noah re-teeing for 3. Let's see if he can make the correction.
Yeah, and the tee pad they're teeing off. Oh, that's a great shot from Noah.
Wow. Out of his hand, I thought that was going to do the same thing again, but that disc had the right amount of understability and fought out perfectly at the end. And he, man, if only someone could have had that shot on their first shot on the tee. That was beautiful.
That was beautiful.
Caleb's 3rd. Sit down. That's still all right. At least the slope of this green is forgiving to where you can be a little more aggressive than you normally would on a basket this close to OB, knowing that it's not going to trickle over the top of that slope unless you really sail it. I guess I could have timed that better.
Yeah, and the OB line is not the creek here. The OB line is actually up on the back of the ridge line where you see the cameraman standing.
Just a little low from Calvin there. He heard me. He said, I know. Caleb, that's too bad. That's frustrating. And here is Noah's re-tee. Look how close he put that.
Even though he carded a bogey, you know that's got to feel more like a birdie throwing that type of shot and getting that putt that close.
Definitely. Shane taking his relief. And with 2 penalty strokes and 3 throws, that gives him a double bogey, unfortunately. Caleb with the double as well. Only a single penalty stroke for him, I believe. Calvin with the bogey. And the gorge is showing its teeth right away.
Yeah, that was a challenging hole for the second hole of the card here.
As we move on to hole 3, this is an interesting one. So the area the drone is flying over now between that path on the left and the rock line on the right is safe. Everything beyond the rocks on the right or on and beyond the path to the left is out of bounds. If players land in out of bounds off of their drive, they go to a drop zone that's right around here. And then the second shot, again, everything we're flying over now is out of bounds, and the only safe area is the bunker. It's kind of inverted of what you would normally see, where the bunker plays as an island green. If players go OB on their second shot, there is a second drop zone in that island bunker where they'll be throwing their next shot from.
And that's got to get some turn.
Yep.
And on this hole, the OB is actually on the right side of the tee on the cart path, and that's a little bit different than some of the other holes on this course. And if it was on the left, on the outer side, that possibly would have been safe, but just not the case.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's important to pay attention to the tee signs in the caddy book out here, as some cart paths are safe and some are OB. And Caleb with a little bit of a grip lock, but can it fight back? No, not quite. He's going to be OB as well.
Yeah, that tall grass out there didn't give him much ground play, did it, Pavvo?
No, especially in the rain. But even without rain, this grass is pretty lush out here because this area of the state gets a lot of precipitation in general.
Wow, field goal on the trees there.
Beautiful. We got a player in bounds. Look at that. Tough footing down there in that little ditch. Can he make it to the bunker?
No.
Oh, almost.
Just short.
It's not often you get to act disappointed when a player doesn't go in a bunker. Oh, man, he missed the bunker. And that one is safe in the bunker. And here we see that first drop zone for drives that went OB off the tee.
Oh, boy.
Calvin does not like it.
Oh, ends up safe.
Still finds the safe island green there. One more shot from the drop zone here. Also of note that I didn't mention on the drone preview, last year everything that is now OB played as hazard, so players were still able to play their lies if they made it almost to the bunker. They just had a penalty, so it kind of is a lot more punishing now with the OB instead of hazard. And look at where this second drop zone is.
Yeah, that's tough placement for a drop zone for sure, Pavvo. We also learned that if you lost your disc in there, it counts as a lost disc, actually. So you would have to recover your disc from there, potentially, if you threw it in there on one of your shots for it not to be counted as a lost disc.
Lost disc penalties are one of the most punishing rules in disc golf, John. I have mixed feelings about them, to be honest, but that's neither here nor there. And we'll focus on the coverage as Calvin unfortunately misses that putt. Oh, Caleb, just low. You can see how bad the conditions are out here that the players were dealing with. We had rain on and off all day, sometimes a drizzle, sometimes heavy rain, but everything, as John mentioned, was just very saturated and adding an extra element of challenge to an already extremely challenging course in good conditions. And Shane with the par. A par is impressive in these conditions on this course when all your competitors are taking bogeys.
Yeah, that makes Calvin's birdie on the first hole even that much more impressive.
Still the only birdie we're seeing on the card. As we take a look at Shane's form here.
Love seeing the Cincinnati players in the background too, caddying for their teammate.
As we move on to hole 4, our first hole with no out of bounds to speak of. 302 feet, par 3, uphill. Beautiful wooded green on this one. I love this fairway. Anytime that a ball golf course goes off into the woods, I should say a disc golf course on a ball golf course goes off into the woods, I love it. And this rock in front of the basket is so cool with a little notch in front of it that just frames up putts perfectly if you're short.
Yeah, this window looks large on camera, but trust me, it's tighter than it looks in person.
Yeah, it really is. And actually, as the tee cam, I stood to the left of the tee in order to see the basket. The players are kind of pinched off to where they're forced to throw an Anheuser if they're throwing right-handed backhand in order to get up there. It's not a straight shot for them.
And we have another feature of Andrew's design, finding some woods and making a tight fairway on an otherwise wide open course. I like that shot from Noah. Get some good skip.
Oh, man. That was going to be good. Yep. Yeah, just a little bit of an early release for Caleb. Those woods on the left are thick, so let's see what Calvin and Caleb are dealing with over here.
Wow, I'm not seeing much there, Pavvo.
Yeah, neither is Calvin. He debated many options there. None of them were very good. Ultimately opted for this hyzer forehand and found a window.
What a great shot from Calvin. That was impressive. He pured that tiny gap.
And Caleb was able to straddle out and access the main fairway, but from an awkward angle. Look at the size of this fallen tree here. Yeah, Noah's going to be up there for a par. Shane as well.
These singles final 13 scores don't count towards the team final, so I'd be willing to wager that we get a little bit more aggressive play in this round than we saw from the individual round earlier.
That's an interesting note, John. I actually wasn't aware of that.
Yep, it's the top 28 players in the D1 field plus ties make the final 13. And we do 13 holes because it's rated, so that's the minimum amount of holes you can play to get a PDGA rating.
Interesting. What?
Wow, that was an unfortunate spit out for Noah. That looked dead center to me, Pavvo.
It was. Dead center spitouts somehow, to me anyway, seem more common in wet conditions. I'm not sure if there's something about slick chains that make it more likely for that to occur, but it's just something I've noticed.
Yeah, that's a great observation. That looked pretty low to me, too. Usually when you see the comebacker spitouts like that, they're usually pretty high up on the chains, but that was just barely above the cage.
True, yeah. Noah definitely got robbed on that one. A quick ad break, and we'll be right back.
Here we are at the International Disc Golf Center. The course is just shining for the competitors.
This place means a lot. It's the type of course that where as soon as you think you haven't figured out, it shows its teeth.
At a major tournament, there's a different kind of feeling.
Make your career go to the next step. You need to win a major.
We show where we came from and hopefully show where we're going with events like this weekend.
And we're back on hole 5, a 629-foot par 4. This one is a bit more straightforward than previous holes. As you can see, the fairway here is just dead straight. The rock lines on both sides of the fairway denote the OB, so players just have to keep it straight, keep it in the middle. And the trickiest part about this hole is probably the green, as you see some trees come into play, and there's a steep slope on the right of the basket leading down to an OB line early and an OB pond a little bit later.
Yeah, you won't see much of the Catawba River, if any of it, on play on this course, but you'll notice that Andrew still finds a way to get the tricky pin placements in there.
Shane playing a simple hyzer, not trying to bite off too much, which you don't really need to do on a par 4 of this distance, and he's right in the middle.
Yeah, you want to be on top of those little hills, too, because that'll help you get that flat footing. Throwing off the side of those slopes is not fun.
Oh, man, Calvin hitting early. At least it didn't kick to the right. I mean, a few inches to the right where it hit the tree, it could have kicked right and gone OB, so at least he's safe, but that still hurts. I gotta say, this is also a very interesting tee placement, kind of directly behind a tree, forcing players to choose to either tee off from the front right or front left corner of the tee pad. Nobody's going to be teeing off from the middle of it with this tee location.
Now, it really forces you to commit to one of the either sides of this on the line, and you'll notice this later in the gorge on hole 18 as well. There's another tree placed very close to the tee there, too.
Caleb going for the aggressive line. It almost paid off for him, but unfortunately he overturned it a little bit.
I like the flight of that disc, though, Pavvo. There's a lot of distance on that one. It just barely stayed out of bounds.
Definitely. Calvin probably just trying to do what he can to save a par after that early tree hit. Birdie was not really in play for him, and that's a great shot. A little upshot, and he should be able to save that par. And here we see Noah's strategy for keeping the throwing hand warm in these cold conditions.
That makes me wonder if he has a few hot hands in there as well, because that would feel nice, I'd imagine.
He's done baking cookies, and he's ready to play disc golf.
I guess that's what it takes to win a championship. You know, these are the defending champions from Missouri here.
Sit down, sit down. Ooh, he barely stays safe. That was a dangerous rollaway there. Shane going for that high hyzer approach as well. That hillside is dangerous, but he stuck it. Look at that. Good shot. Caleb getting confirmation from his card mates that this is approximately where he crossed into the OB. And despite going OB, he still bit off more distance than everyone else. And his drive probably went another 50 feet past where it crossed the OB line. He's going to be a little disappointed about that one. He wishes he put that a little closer.
Calvin calling for it to sit, and it listens. Nice disc.
Oh, Noah, just a little bit high. And again, that was safe down there. He was real close to the OB line. I couldn't quite get in position to see his disc, but he was safe down there. Caleb leaving it low with the penalty. That's going to be a bogey for him. Great birdie putt from Shane there. We have another green element on the scorecard down there at the bottom. Look at that. We got two of them now.
Yeah, and it seems like Shane played one of the safer shots off the tee, too, so that really came to fruition for him.
Yeah, I don't really see much reason to be super aggressive on the tee on this one. I mean, what are you going to do? Give yourself a 200-foot upshot instead of a 300-foot upshot? I mean, that might be a little easier, but with the risk of the OB line on both sides, I do kind of question Caleb's strategy to be aggressive off the tee. But, hey, it almost worked. So who am I to question it? And Noah saves the bogey. As we take one more look at Shane's beautiful birdie putt here. Nice. Moving on to hole 6, a 272-foot par 3. This is an island green. Everything the drone is flying over now is out of bounds. Even past this first cart path, that little area with the small Christmas tree thingies is out of bounds. But past the second cart path, this is the only safe area. And I believe that rock line behind the basket is also OB, so it is a pretty tight island green.
Yeah, there's not very much flat real estate to land it on there, Pavvo.
And for players that do go OB, there is a drop zone on the green that'll give players about a 40-foot putt. And that's about as far right as you can go and still be safe. That's the only forgiving side of this island green.
Nice shot.
Good shot from Calvin.
That looks like it's going to be a scary putt for Calvin.
I mean, this green, any putt that's not close is scary because any basket hit and you're risking a rollaway that could potentially roll OB. Oh, man, that was going to be all right. That tree knocked it right back into the out of bounds. So
Yeah, he squared that one up dead center there, Pavvo.
Noah's going to be going to that drop zone. Caleb hanging it out wide with a hyzer, fighting back nicely. And does not go OB long. That's a good drive.
That was good distance control there, Pavvo, because he didn't really land it on the front side of that hill, but to have it check up before it hit the backside on that OB line, that's good. That's good control there.
That is a smart play from Shane from that lie. Running that putt was kind of an unnecessary risk. I agree with that layup decision.
Here's Noah from the drop zone. Ooh, great bid from Noah. Just a little low.
Oh, Caleb just a little high. Oh, no. He found the drop zone as well without going OB. Just a few feet away from it. Comebacker for par.
That was subtle.
Sit down. Gosh. The OB is so tight on so many of these holes.
Yeah, it is. If your disc stands up and gets any type of roll, it really has no chance of staying in bounds.
Oh, my gosh. I feel for the kid right now.
Yeah, that's tough, Pavvo.
He's been close on every putt. And that one, he just decided he wanted to stop the bleeding and lay it up. Can't blame him.
I want to see Calvin give this one a good run and cash it in for the birdie.
Great putt. Great birdie from Calvin.
Dead center chains.
And Calvin even through 6 holes, which is actually a fantastic score on this course in these conditions.
Yeah, you got to imagine the rest of the field is shifting around all around him, and I don't think they're headed in the negative direction there.
Beautiful birdie putt from Calvin. As we move on to one of my favorites, if not my favorite hole on the course, just because I love the woods, and as I mentioned in earlier rounds, I love boulders, and this hole has plenty of them. No OB to speak of. Open tee shot into this really wooded, tight fairway for the second shot. Huge boulders everywhere, as you can see. Lots of trees. There is a creek that plays down the right side, but it's casual, so there really is no OB to speak of. Just about 1 million trees you have to navigate on this hole, and tricky footing on any subsequent shots after the tee shot with all the rocks.
Yeah, I love seeing all the trees, Pavvo, but I also love seeing that there's a clear alley right up the gut, too. You know, it's always tough when there's not an obvious line, but here it seems like you get a good placement shot, you're going to be winding right down that hallway.
True. And being only a 553-foot par 4, it is very fair. It does play uphill, so I'd say it plays maybe 650 in total with the uphill on the second and potentially third shots, but it's still, you can be conservative and still birdie.
Yeah. I honestly like that one out of Shane's hand, but it just never really turned over and hyzered out there at the end.
A little inside from Noah, but it's fighting through a lot of trees. And he's down near or maybe in that creek, but either way, it's still safe. Caleb with the forehand. Got a little too much turn out of it, but there's some options from over there. It's not as thickly wooded there as it is in other places. And here we see Calvin in the casual creek, throwing his second. And wow, from that lie, that was very impressive.
Yeah, we've seen Calvin throw 2 really good scramble shots already in this round.
Caleb's second. He was trying to get that just a little bit wider, and he tickled some foliage there, and he's going to end up short left. Decent shot from Shane there. You saw him turn to the camera and ask if I was good. He was very courteous and very aware of the camera the whole time. Always wanted to make sure I was in position before he threw. And then didn't take much time after that. He actually went from asking if I was good to throwing the shot in about 2 seconds. And Noah with the high forehand, but it gets caught up. He doesn't make much progress on that one. And that was Caleb's upshot. I was in position to get a different shot, and he actually went out of turn. He probably didn't know that there was a player behind him. We were all spread out on this hole.
I think the challenging approaches you're seeing here really highlights Calvin's upshot. To get himself a putt from where he was, you know, it's really that was a great shot from him.
And I believe that was Shane's upshot. Yeah, and here's Calvin for a birdie. Still, a par on this hole is not bad. Despite it being a short par 4, it's very technical.
Yeah, you can't imagine there were many birdies today.
Oh, man. Just a little bit left side. Caleb tapping in for the par. Shane for the par as well. Calvin gets the par. And Noah with the unfortunate bogey there.
Yeah, you know that's not the way that Noah, the defending national champion, wanted to start.
Another look at Caleb's putt here. And it feels weird to say after 7 holes, but that's actually going to wrap up our front half, our front 7 here. We'll take a look at the scores after those 7 holes. 9 over, 2 over, 7 over, and even. I mean, I'll say it again, even is really good out here. I think to shoot 1,000 rated, you had to shoot 3 over.
Wow.
On this layout. So
wow.
even is good. Anyway, I'm Pavvo Stubstad. I was joined by John Baker. That was the front 7. Join us for the back 6.